It's so lovely to see you. Warmest greetings and hearty welcomes to you. Welcome to Ponderingtales ASMR. Today we're going to be having a little look into water. What a nice surprise for you. I've got a couple of watery things to talk about, as well as some watery objects to show you, and a couple of little stories here and there. So if you like it, do please let me know in the comments. And if you're new here, do please subscribe. That would be amazing. So let's get down to the watery business. Pondering Tales. What I've got for you is a little explanation about why I'm thinking about water right now. So, in this brief ASMR video, you'll probably notice that I've turned the microphone upside down, and that's so that there's less risk of me whacking the cable underneath and producing not very nice sounds for you. I've got some water that I'll be drinking throughout. Probably not all of it because it's a 2-pint stein, and it's this sort of size, which is great for promoting the whole hydration thing. Hydration is really important, and it's something that I don't think enough of us do, and it really is something that I've googled way too many times. But I suppose the first thing for me to go into is when I first discovered how important hydration was. I don't know if you like gulping sounds. So when I was 15 years old, in 2006, I went to Italy on a tour, a musical tour. It was with a youth orchestra. I was playing violin, and we went to stay in Lake Garda. Not literally in Lake Garda, because that would be too watery, but we stayed in a town called Arco, which is quite funny because Arco is a musical term as well. It means when you're going from plucking your stringed instrument, pizzicato, pizzicato. Arco is when you start using your bow. Anyway, that's the musical trivia for this video. So we stayed in this place in Italy, and I was 15, and I'd never been to Italy. I'd been to France. That was the only place I think I'd been abroad. And apart from the Isle of Wight, which is not very far away. But the first thing I noticed, this was July, the first thing I noticed when I got off the coach was just how overwhelmingly hot it was. It was quite an oppressive amount of heat that I was feeling when I came off the coach. I'd never experienced anything before it in my entire life, and it's quite an intimidating presence to have that much heat. I imagine the coach, being a huge metal object, was just conducting like crazy. I don't really know much about the science and things, but I think conducting is the right word to use there. So that was my immediate reaction, was to think, gosh, this is very hot. So we stayed near Lake Garda, and we went to Venice one day. Now, in 2006, I'm not sure if you know, but it was really, really hot in lots of places. Now, England doesn't get very hot. When we've got a hot summer, I tend to think of being massively hot, which is more like if it's 33, 34, 35 degrees Celsius. So 30s, in the 30s, that's when you get your shorts out and you sunbathe. But in Venice, I think it was recorded to be 40 and above, and I'd never ever been in such heat in all my life. I'd had quite I wouldn't say sheltered upbringing, but not in the slightest, but I think in terms of going abroad, I'd never been to a hot country, and England is not a hot country. So that was really weird. And regarding water, that was the first time I think I'd realised the importance of having water on you as much as you possibly can. And we didn't do any performing as an orchestra in Venice. We just had the day out to have a look around. Not only was it really busy with tourists, but that doesn't help in terms of body heat and stuff as well. But it was ludicrously hot, and I remember just thinking, I'm gonna need some water at some point. So I had a bottle, but being the 15-year-old me that I was, I probably made it last, whereas I should have got more. But we couldn't leave Venice on time that evening. We were waiting in the coach, sort of drop-off pickup point, because one of the orchestra members, had got a form of heat stroke. Well, that was the rumour. So he was carted off to a hospital or a doctor nearby to be sorted out, because he was evidently physically overwhelmed by it. On the coach, we were watching Gladiator, and I fell asleep a couple of times, I guess because it was really hot and I was maybe dehydrated. So I've not actually seen Gladiator since that coach experience. And when you're watching films on coaches, it's not a great experience because you can't really hear anything or see much. I just remember Russell Crowe's character sort of walking through this field, I think of reeds and something, and he's brushing his hand over. You'll know the bit I mean. So yeah, so I realised from then on in, I then would always drink water when I came home. I would always have a glass of water with me at all times. But before I was 15, before I went on this trip, I either didn't like water really, or I just never really considered drinking it. But it was like I was sort of fearful for my life. I was just trying to keep hydrated all the time. And I sort of grew to like water on that note. Trying to gulp very quietly. So there we go. So since then, I've always had water with me. Now, as a singer, so one of my jobs is I'm a singer, as part of my profession. You either get told again and again by singing music teachers, choir directors, that you must have water. The internet will tell you even more so to have loads of water at all times. So, even these days I'm always carrying a bottle with me, but it's a reusable bottle, it's not plastic. So I'm always swinging, clutching a bottle when I'm walking to and from work. But I think it's really useful. So water is really good for you in many ways. It's good for your overall health. But if you are interested in vocal things, it's also very good for your voice. Though I find if I drink a lot of water and I'm in particularly good vocal health, my range doesn't do what the internet says it will do, and my vocal range goes higher, and I've got to be lower, as a sort of rule, as I'm employed to be the lower singer. But if you've got hydrated vocal folds, it supposedly deepens your voice. You can sort of tell if you've got dehydrated vocal folds. But anyway, that's about the voice. But going on to the next thing that I can talk about, which involves water. Hope you're finding this very interesting. So it's lucky I'm not shooting on a blue screen today, or with any sort of background, because I appreciate there's a lot of blue going on right now. And blue is actually my favourite colour. What I've got here is a vocal tube. I got this on Amazon. Now, if you've ever had vocal or speech therapy, or you know somebody that has had that sort of therapy, or somebody who has suffered from losing their voice and has needed to recover it, there are methods that are prescribed that I think it's called straw phonation. Straw phonation, straw phonation. And straw phonation is essentially retraining your vocal folds to produce, to phonate, to produce sound without the strain of everything else you're doing when you're using your voice, when you're speaking, when you're singing, when you're shouting, when you're overusing it. And I got this vocal tube, I think it was around about the time when I hadn't been singing properly for many, many months because of COVID-19 and because my job was then out of order, as it were. So I then got this to try and retrain everything. And I'm not entirely sure if this is relaxing, but essentially what I'm going to try and do is demonstrate what this is supposed to do. So you blow through the tube while phonating, while producing a sound that's a bit like humming. So it's and there's a definite technique to it, and there are countless videos on YouTube about how you should do it and how you shouldn't do it. But I just occasionally use it. It's good for warming up vocally. If you live somewhere where singing properly, especially if you've got to sing early in the morning or use your voice early in the morning and you're warming up and you don't want to disturb your neighbours, this is something that you could possibly do. I even did this. I was once doing this when I was walking to work. I had a similar sort of bottle to this. And yeah, and we're going to make a bit of a silly sound now because I'm going to try and demonstrate what you're supposed to do with your voice while using this. I'm not sure how many other people have done this as a form of ASMR. Maybe blowing bubbles is really not appropriate for ASMR, but we've got to find out somehow, right? That's a bit too noisy. So as I've just demonstrated, you can do it with phonation, vocalizing, or you can do it without, just like you're blowing through a straw normally. The sort of thing that your parents would tell you off for doing when you were a kid. But I think it's a pretty interesting way of freeing up your voice. Ironically, as an ASMR artist, you might think, well, you don't need to really warm up your voice because you're speaking like this most of the time and you're using a very low speaking tone. But it's useful if you're using your voice for different aspects and different things. So anyway, I'm not sure if this is a relaxing sound or not, but there might be some people that do like this. So, as you see, the water only goes up to here. And if you know anything about physics and science, the further down the straw is, the harder it is to get a sound. There's more resistance. Whereas if you do it higher, it's easier. So if I sort of spill it on myself. Sounds very silly, I'm sure, but it's harder when it's further down like that in deep water, so you can change the amount of water you've got for different resistances. It's far easier to sing, well, it's not really singing, but it's far easier to vocalize when the straw is higher up. And I'm spitting it on myself again. Anyway, if you find that sort of thing relaxing, I'll do an entire video on that. But I'm just sucking it and seeing for now. So yeah, water, very important. But not just for humans, water is very important for plants as well. In order to help plants grow and develop, we need to give them the hydration that they deserve. So, I've got a succulent plant here. So, these sorts of plants don't need very much water. They're used to surviving in desert climates, but I'm gonna just spray it. This is probably quite a dangerous ASMR video to make because of the proximity with water and technology. Obviously, if this video gets published, I've done okay and nothing has exploded. I think that's as much spraying as I can do with microphones and computers and lights in the general vicinity. I think this is quite well watered now. But again, I'll see if I can find a way to do a spraying video that's not near microphones and computers. I think maybe if I spray in the direction behind me. There's a plug socket, but it should be okay. That's probably enough for now. So we use this for spraying the indoor plants that are in the house, be it succulent or not succulent. So remember to drink water. Hydrate not only yourself, but your friends and family, and your animals, and your plants, because we all need to be hydrated. Water is life. And it's been a long day, and I'm talking a lot about water in this quite eccentric way, but I hope you can understand. If you've ever been on a particularly heavy night, or even a heavy day of drinking alcohol, you will probably be aware of the importance of water and hydration And sometimes you won't realise until it's too late. And I think some people realise a bit too late to do lots of things to recover. But one thing I used to do, especially when I was younger, in order to make the next day a little less unpleasant, was to try and drink as much water as I possibly could before I went to bed, in order to not have some of the slightly scary side effects. And I know somebody, there's a singing teacher I know of who is not against his students and his pupils from going out drinking and having a good time, but he insists that with every pint of beer or whatever they have, that they have a pint of water as well to accompany. So must make the tables a bit crowded, but that way essentially you're keeping relatively hydrated. But I don't know, it's kind of a strange irony that many of us would happily sit around for hours on end drinking pint after pint of alcoholic beverage, but we won't do that for water. And just think, if you did that, you'd need to go to the toilet a fair amount, but you would also be making yourself somewhat healthier. But I don't know. Not sure how interesting that would make an evening. And also, everybody would be going to the toilet. This is quite a hefty piece of kit. So this holds 2 pints. Traditionally, you would have German beer in here at things like Oktoberfest, or actually whenever you fancied it. It doesn't have to be Oktoberfest. So there's a video I'm thinking of doing pretty soon, which will involve me looking through a cocktail recipe book and showing you a few of my sort of favourites and things that I like. But at the same time, I was going to make a cocktail that I think I sort of invented, in that I haven't seen anybody else do anything similar. And it was inspired by pirates, and particularly a game called Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which I was playing at the time, and I had some ingredients knocking around, and I made a drink that I call sea shandy, which you can probably work out where I got that from and what it contains. So I'll do that video for you soon. But I think that's where we'll leave it for today, so thank you ever so much for watching. As always, it's been lovely to see you and lovely to hang out, and I do hope that you enjoyed it, and please do subscribe and join the family of Pondering Tales ASMR. It'll be lovely to see you again. Do stay safe, do keep warm and cool depending on your temperature needs, and I will see you very, very, very soon. So take care.